Well, let's get more on this now with Tahani Mustafa. She joins us from Amman in Jordan, and she's a Palestine analyst with the International Crisis Group. Tahani, thanks so much for speaking to us on this news hour. I want to start with the situation in the occupied West Bank. As we heard there from Faten, it seems to be getting worse every day. But this also seems to be a new front in the war. You have the war on Gaza that's been going on for 11 months, and now it is filtering through to the occupied West Bank in an even worse way.
I think that's a bit of a mischaracterization because what we're seeing in the West Bank, we've been seeing over the last 2-3 years now. Prior to the 7th of October, you were having something like 500 Israeli incursions a week, something like over 50 arrests, and a lot of that was clustered into the northern West Bank. The West Bank was pretty much in crisis, and that was something that had been classified or categorized by organizations like the UN and human rights groups. So really, this is more of a continuation of what we were seeing prior to the 7th of October, and something that even Hamas had used to justify what it did on the 7th of October. A lot of the spike in violence, the Palestinian fatalities, the land grabs, the settlement expansions. And what we're seeing today, especially over the last couple of days, is really just a far more accelerated, far more violent version of really trends that we've been seeing over the last 3 years.
Now, when it comes to a ceasefire deal that the U.S. has been pushing for, many other countries have been pushing for. We heard from Joe Biden. He doesn't seem to be happy with Benjamin Netanyahu. Not something we haven't heard from him before. However, when we then hear from the U.S. Secretary of State, for example, who has said, oh, Netanyahu has agreed to the ceasefire deal, there seems to be this mixed messaging coming from the United States right now. Who do we believe?
Well, look, a lot of this is just public posturing from both the Israelis and the US. The US has been very much complicit in a lot of the images we're seeing coming out of the West Bank, coming out of Gaza. This has been a huge PR crisis, not just for Israel, but also the US, where this has, really just completely drawn out US hypocrisy in terms of its foreign policy and the rhetoric that it likes to engage in. On the one hand, it speaks of human rights and international law, and on the other, we see it in practice engage in something far more contradictory. So really, from what we already know, the ceasefire talks are really just, it's a complete sham at this point to even speak of ceasefire talks. There's been absolutely no pressure on Israel to really seriously engage in ceasefire talks, let alone stop derailing them, which is what we've consistently seen from Israel. And worse yet, a lot of the US brokered ceasefire talks that we're seeing are largely one-sided. This is about Israel and its US ally trying to impose conditions on Palestinians, which it knows that Hamas will not accept. And what Hamas is demanding is not outside the remit of international law here.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see this week. The US speaks about a make or break deal, if that will actually happen. Tahani Mustafa, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.